I'm Michael Schofield. I'm an impressionist landscape artist. Landscapes are probably what I enjoy doing the most. And I think one of the reasons I enjoy doing what I do because I enjoy being in nature. Landscapes to me speaks to who and what I am. I enjoy the outside. I love looking at different parts of the country. Every different part of the country is unique in its area. Landscapes are what I enjoy painting more than anything else. When I'm looking at a landscape, the first thing I do is to see the depth of the piece and how I'm going to create the depth. How am I going to create the foreground and the middle ground and the background? And what it is that I'm going to have to do in order to jump over the hurdles it's going to take in order to get that particular scene on canvas. Do I frame it right to left? Do I move these trees here? Do I bring a brook through the center of the piece? Do I bring it from left to right? You know, what's intriguing about this particular scene? Taking out all of the small details that don't make any sense and just getting the essence of the piece. That's what I do. That's what I envision when I first see the landscape. I think an artist's job is to interpret what the creator has laid out for us. We're just basically taking snapshots of that, putting in our own interpretation of it, our own feelings, our own emotion, and then presenting that to the viewers or to the public. That's art to me. So it really is just it's a statement of what we are and who we are, and it's translated through, in my case, landscapes. The idea of becoming an artist didn't really hit until high school. And it was one of those rainy days when the music instructor was filling in for the English teacher that couldn't make it to school. So he whipped out his watercolor palette and paints and a piece of watercolor paper and did a demonstration right in the class. That was his way of filling in for the teacher. And well, I watched him do that. And I still remember what he painted. He painted an old railroad ties and some water in between the ties and a couple of trees above it and reflecting in the waters. And I thought, wow, that's what I want to do. Your life changes quickly, you know, and the direction changes quickly. And then I think a lot of it is just following the path. We don't choose our career, it chooses us. I think that's very true. I think as long as you keep moving, that career will catch up to you, or you'll find the right spot to walk into, or the right position to be in at the right time. You know, the doors open, you walk through them, see what's on the other side. I did a couple of one-man shows down in Florida. I think probably one of the more interesting one was what I did in Cleveland, a real wet, cold, snowy night. I really didn't think that I would have anybody show up for the show because it was so cold and miserable. We ended up having 1,100 people show up for the event. We sold almost everything in the entire show, and the party didn't stop until about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And those were fun. We had a lot of people show up in those days, all throughout Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. I did that for probably 10 years. There was a lot of shows. The most posters I think I had in one particular catalog was about 25. Back in the 90s, I think there was a few catalog companies that had 10 or 15, but I think Editions Limited had up to about 25 pieces. Interestingly enough, some of the pieces are still in catalogs dating back into the early 90s. And then you start to realize that, you know, all the millions of posters you're selling happen to find their way in front of the public. And I think that's when you start to realize that you're actually fairly famous in this game. Well, I spent 10 years in Nashville, in that area. And I think a lot of the subject matter that I paint today comes out of that era and out of that area. Tennessee and Kentucky and Alabama, Mississippi, and even upstate New York. I love that area up there. You know, big pines, the big beech trees, the big birches. I think a lot of that that I do today is reminiscent of those areas and of that subject matter. I paint in California quite a bit too, like today. Those areas I think are what I enjoy painting the most. One of the more difficult things is painting on location. A lot of people say, well, you got everything right in front of you. Well, you have too much in front of you. The artist has to take all of the elements, eliminate the things you don't need in the painting, and just paint the things that you do need. And you have to deal with the light changing. It changes rapidly. You're painting the shadows on one tree and all of a sudden they're not there anymore. So you have to take a mental snapshot of the area that you're looking at and then paint that, because it's going to change 5 minutes from now. I think my paintings, they tell hope and they tell adventure and mystery and romance, and I've been fortunate, really fortunate, to paint something that people really enjoy and feel and get inspired from and fall in love with. And I like the growing aspect of becoming a better and better artist. I don't think you ever arrive as an artist. I think you're always arriving. You're eventually going to get there. I think eventually I'll get to a point where I feel comfortable with the work. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied completely with it. I like the idea that somebody can see one of my paintings and see a part of nature that they've been in, a place that they're familiar with, a scene that they know from childhood or some time in a vacation, something like that. That's when I feel like what I do actually rings home. That's important to me. They can actually relate to the landscape. So communication between the painter and the viewer is what's important.